screen.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
We're recording right now.
Click on that.
And you guys can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at applique. And to make applique, you're going to use the block section again. We've been working a lot in the block. So, we're not going to start with immediate drawing. We're going to start with some editing first. And to do that, it's going to be in that patchwork section. So, we're going to go to, work on a block, right? And, we're going to make sure that we make a new block. And I know this is our favorite section, the patchwork draw block, right? But if we look at that, we have some choice. At the bottom left corner, we have this little applique tab, right? There's tracing, piece, applique, and then there's color. Okay, we're going to click on the applique tab. Okay, so now, this is our selected tab, okay? And then, of course, there's the color tab, right? But right now, we're going to stay with applique. And, what we're going to see on our screen are these little drawing tools. And remember, always click on that customize and then add and remove buttons to see if there's any buttons that need checked. And all of ours have been checked or should be checked, right?
Right.
So we have these neat options here. We have our drawing tools. This is a Bezier curve. And, that's going to give us kind of, like the curves like in the embroidery software. This is freehand. And, we can draw just like a brush stroke. This is going to be just a line. And then we've got these, rectangle, ellipses. And then we've got these ovals, but we've got this little fly out menu. So when we fly out, you can see you've got like feathers. And, if there's a little black, arrow on any of these, then click on it and see what happens. Okay, on these, oval, it's just going to give us an oval. See? I'm going to go ahead and undo it. But you've got, the oval that's shaped like this. You've got an oval that's a heart shape. This is really kind of diamond shape. And these are really like your feathers, right? And, of course, we've got our polygon, which is going to give us a lot more options as well. So there's a lot of tools to draw with, right? But we're not going to start drawing necessarily today. Today we're going to look at a block that's already in the system, and we're going to pick out, and pick it apart so you can kind of see what's going on with this applique and get a feel for how things are made, okay? Up here is pretty much the same. We've got these little flip tools. We haven't played too much with these yet, but we're going to. And, but just get familiar with this screen when you go to do your homework, which, by the way, you guys have had a couple of weeks with homework since I've been kind of down and out here. And I'm thinking you guys might need, like, detention.
Go ahead. Give it to us.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to think about it. How do you do this? How do you do detention via the Internet? Anyway, we're going to start with one of the blocks already in this. We're going to go to libraries and block library, right? And in the block library, you have all these different options. But, if we look on the left here, we've got classic piece, right? If you keep scrolling down and scrolling down, or if this is open, just go ahead and close that. Keep scrolling down, you have contemporary or classic applique, right?
Okay.
And, here's like a contemporary one. I guess they consider these contemporary because they're, not really as, traditional. But here's like Hawaiian, right? And, you've got tiles and design. So, there's a lot of different options. And here's, your design studio. So you've got a lot of different things. Those are the contemporary. These are the classics, where you've got the baskets, the birds, butterflies. These are going to be things that, you're kind of used to seeing like on a Baltimore quilt, right? Flowers in a vase, folk art. There's cameos, silhouettes. There's Sunbonnet Sue and Sunbonnet Sam. You know, there's vases and wreaths. You've got a lot of different things here, right? But we're going to start off with something fairly simple.
Hello, Bernie. This is Judy.
Hey, Miss Judy, you're there. All right.
Yes, I'm in mountain time and I forgot, so
Oh,
I'm here.
We're on the new system here, and it's so far
Yes.
it's been a little bit better. So we're hoping that it continues to be better. But right now we're working on Applique, and we're going to tear apart.
I can see that like I did before.
Hmm?
Good. Well, who else is with us? I couldn't
Oh,
see
you know,
that
I think
on
I
there.
have to show you who's here. Right now we're missing Lee,
Oh, okay.
and that's so. In you know, can you guys see the participants if I leave that open?
No, I don't see it. No.
Okay. Do you guys have a button to show participants?
Yes, up top.
Okay.
You
kind of move your.
Oh, there we
go.
go. Let's see. There we go. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
you'll-
Okay.
Yeah, so
All
there's
right.
a chat button up here too. So and then you know, so there's a chat and so you can chat amongst yourself. I don't know if I get a transcript of that, just so you're forewarned. I might. Joking. But we can upload files to this system a little bit easier too.
Okay. And this is Cisco Systems. Okay.
Yeah, this is I just finally gave up on the Webex. I just, you know, let it.
Yeah.
This was the last, you know, you pay monthly on it. And I just thought, you know, this is crazy. So, you know, I got a hold of a couple different companies, and Webex seemed to have everything that we needed, and, you know, wasn't any more expensive than the other system. And so far, it's behaved a little better. There's some things that are a little bit different on it. So
Yeah, the audio's sure good. My audio's sure good.
Yeah, the audio seems to be better, except I did something that cut myself off, so I'm going to have to watch these buttons. But I'm also recording it with Camtasia, which the other system would never allow me to do. So I have a backup recording, because this is going to send a link out rather than allow me to embed it in our website. So you know, that way, you know, I also have, you know, the recording to put on the DVD. So, all right. So now we're going to start with.
Thank you for taking the time to look, Bernie. Thank you for taking the time to look and improve it.
Well, that's okay. I had plenty of time because I was on massive painkillers and kind of down and out last week.
Well, I'm glad you're better.
Yeah, they don't know what's wrong. So I have some more doctor's appointments this week, but you know, at least I'm functioning, because last week I just was not. I just couldn't function. So
it's not your gallbladder.
That's what the emergency room said. And then my doctor, because, you know, the next day I was at my doctor. And hold on, let me go ahead and unpause this. Okay, so that's kind of one of the nice features of this, is that, you know, I actually can pause and unpause the recording, where before all you could do was stop, right? All right, now, to give you an idea of, you know, what you can do with some of these tools, right? You know, you can draw like very simple shapes, and then, you know, of course you can kind of copy them, and, you know, of course you can, you know, paste them, right? But, you know, let's kind of start with just a really basic little shape, and, you know, we'll go back into our oval thing. Let me think if I want to use one of those, or if I want to just use the oval and edit. You know what? Let's just go ahead and we'll just use the regular oval. And we're just going to draw. Okay, you can see it kind of just goes round. You know, the control and the shift don't make any difference. This is, you know, just going to be kind of like this oval-y kind of thing. It's not really round. It's not really an oval, right? Okay, just because it's, you know, like this doesn't mean that, you know, I can't edit it. Let me move this down to the center. You know, all I have to do is go into here and select it. And, you know, and I've got these nodes, right? So if I want to straighten something, I can do it this way. Right? Or I can take the really easy route, and I can say straighten that segment. Okay, so I can, you know, I can play with those nodes if I want to, or I can just click on the quick little straighten button. So, I'm now straight, and I'm going to even this up a little bit and just use my grid. And let me uncurve that a little bit. Now, if I want to, kind of add an angle to something or add something, I've got like this line I'm using, and you can see I can plus a node in here, or, I've got this line that I'm using, I can plus a node in here, right? I'm going to go ahead and plus a node in between on this straight line. So now I have a node, right? And I can move that node anywhere I want. I'm going to go ahead and just maybe move it like this. If I click on this, I've got that little curve I can adjust as well, right? Okay, so there's one piece here. And, we're pretty straight on using those little dots as, our line, right? I could snap to, but I'm not going to snap to right now because we're just playing. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to clone it. I'm going to flip it. And then I'm going to move it over. And we'll just kind of line this up a little bit. Okay, so, here is, kind of the shape of a ladybug. I still need her to be maybe a little bit fatter, so I'm just going to cheat and drag it over like that. Maybe it's a little bit too wide. Okay, so there's kind of the shape of our ladybug, right? And then I'm just going to go in, pick the ellipse, and, if I hold my control key, I get a perfect circle. Okay, so here is the perfect little circle for her head. That's pretty easy. I'm just going to lay it right on top. And I'm going to convert it to a patch. Okay, so that circle got converted to a patch. And, I can always resize this if I wanted to have a little more oval head or a bigger head, right? Okay, now, for the dots, I would not want to have to cut out a whole bunch of little dots. But, you guys have a whole bunch of options. You have embroidery machines, and, you could put crystals on it, right? So that neat little circle tool, we can draw, hold your control key, and just draw little circles. And we'll just drop them on top. And, of course, we can I don't think I want us to do that. So, that's kind of cool. A partition tool. We'll play with that next. I'm going to do that. Okay, so here's my little circle, right? And, just for the simple fact that, I might want to have, like, something to mark, I'm going to leave that alone for right now. And, I can, of course, I can clone it and just move these around. But it's always easier if you hold the shift key and, and then clone those and move those around, right? And, then you've always got the option to come in here and move them individually. And, once you get these placed on one side where you want them, just hold your shift key and start clicking on these and selecting them. Okay, then just clone them, flip them, and move them over to the other side. That won't let me flip those, will they? Okay, well, all right. So we're going to go take a look at these because remember we had to make her head a patch, right? Right now, these are just clear little circles. That's all they are. If we go over to our color section, We want to color in her wings. Those little circles aren't going to be a patch. Okay? Like if I go, here and print my template, I'm not going to get, I guess I am going to get 8 bazillion of those little circles, but I can delete them because, I'm not going to want to make all these little circles. I'm either going to sew them on or something, but, at least I've got, here's kind of a guideline of where I want to lay them. So you can either put the dots on or not. I'm kind of a visual person. I like seeing the dots. So, I would still put the dots on. Okay, so we're back in our applique. We've got the head. We've got, we've got her body in there. Quick little tool. I would use this and squish it up a little bit and shrink it down. And let me go in here. And personally, I wouldn't be, you know why I didn't make it a patch. Hold on. I personally would not be making this anything other than something that I would maybe stitch on either. And you can see up here, I've got these options like pie shape, an arc shape. I've got some options up here that I didn't have before. But right now, we're just going to convert it to a patch. Go in here, and let's edit. And maybe not quite like that. I just want something that indicates the antenna, right? Just as an indicator, but I certainly would not be cutting this out as a patch either. And I can either do this, which might be easier, and pull these nodes around to make the antenna curve. But to me, I would be sewing the antenna on, just so you guys know. So here's my color thing. That's really not closed because it's closed, but it's really kind of not closed. But if we go and we look at our block, there is my little funky thing right there, right? That's why you come in here and you say delete. And it would be the same thing for these. You would want to delete these as well, right? And unfortunately, you can only delete them one at a time. Okay? So, it's up to you if you want to draw them or not draw them. But, you can see it's quick and easy to kind of make little shapes, right? I'll go ahead and throw that in our thing, but it's pretty easy to make simple shapes if you play with this. Oops. Sorry. Okay, let's go back here. Now, okay, play with those and play with adding little shapes. And, then you can kind of get into maybe a few more complicated things like, practice the ladybug and play with that. And then start, we're going to try to make some different things like, we can maybe make our own sunbonnets through the next time. I'll probably have some images for us to start tracing on the next one. Because one of the things I do want to do is I do want to have it where, we're using this tool a little bit more and where we're making our own Celtic designs with this brush stroke. And, because this is kind of neat. You see if you go, and, that's really kind of like a bias binding type of thing, right? Let me kind of straighten that out. Yeah, and do that. At this point, it's, it's a really, you're going to control how wide this is, right? Because you can say, how wide do you want it to be? you know, I want it to taper randomly. Let's do this. And, you know, depending on how you shape, that's going to depend on how it tapes or how it tapers, and we want it to have a point. When I come over to here to color it, you know, see what it does on these crisscross kind of places? It does some really odd little things. So, you know, you have to know that that's what's going to happen. And, you know, if that's the case, then, you know, I have to know that I'm going to have to, you know, use this brush stroke, right? Okay, there's my one thing. And, you know, but I have to understand what this tool's going to do. Here's my second one, right? So those are two distinct things. Now, if I go to color in these two distinct things, you know, do they color in it individually? See where it kind of broke those, where this went over, and see I still have some holes. So, you know, we're going to have to understand kind of what this does. If you really look at, you know, what we did here, see where I have those funny little vector, like, curves there, because of how I drew it. You know, this would not have any curves, right? But, or it wouldn't have any of those funny curves, but this would, right? You know, I'm going to have crisscrosses here. So, you know, what happens if I take this and, you know, I convert it to a patch first? Okay, then I see those blank spots, right? You know, I automatically see those. You know, this, you know, of course, is going to be one thing. What happens if I convert it to a patch and then come in here and edit it? You know, what happens if I pick this tool or this one right here and, you know, start overlapping it? Okay, see, it behaves a lot different than that hole there, right? You know, because I turned it into a patch first. So, you know, we're going to play with these. And, you know, see, even here I've got a hole where, you know, right here, because, you know, it wasn't a patch. You know, I didn't twist it around. And, you know, this one, even if I convert to a patch, I'm still going to have that hole. You know, so
what
kind of comes in handy.
What about, wasn't there something that we used, bring it to the front or put it to the back kind of thing? Wasn't that, didn't we do that on something?
Yeah, but it wouldn't make any difference. What this
is it not?
Like when I come up here and I cross over, the minute I turn it into a patch either here or over in the other by going to color, because these are vector lines, that hole's going to be there. Okay, so when I come in here to color it, that hole's there. You know, will it let me color the hole? No. It doesn't recognize that hole as being closed. So, you know, but that's okay. As long as I know that, then I know when I go to draw something, you know, like a Celtic design, right? I know that, you know, if I come up here, I have to end. If I come down here, that's going to create a hole there, right? You know, you have to know that. So what do I need to do here? I need to convert that to a patch and then come over to here. And, you know, maybe not be quite as severe on this and convert it to a patch. Oops, didn't want to do that. Hold on. Convert it to a patch. Okay, so now what I have is I don't have the colors, right? I don't have that missing color. Okay?
Right. You have two separate patches.
Right. So, which, you know, that's great. If I, you know, go to draw something like here's, you know, here's pieces of my, you know, Celtic design, right? So, okay, let's convert it to a patch. And, okay, now I'm going to come over and I'm going to take that around like that. Okay, let's convert it to a patch. Okay. So, you know, now I've got two pieces. I also have the ability to come into here and, you know, I can use these straighten tools. You know, I've got an intersection type of thing going on here. I might want to split that curve, right?
Mhm.
So I can pull this, take this node, and maybe pull it up. And, so I can do a lot of different things here. I just have to figure out how to close them, right? And, but I've got this split thing here. See where I can split things?
Yeah. Ah, I see.
So we have a lot of options here. We just have to come into, like, these are technically not closed now, and I don't have the option to turn them into anything. Like, I don't have the option to close them other than, I can use these tools, come over here, pick this, insert a point in between, right? Oops, sorry. I might want to zoom in and make sure I'm on the one section I want. Insert a point, and then I can, start doing this editing. Okay, here's this piece right here I want to worry about. Let me zoom in. It makes it easier. This section right here. Okay, let's straighten that. This here, I want to curve it, right? So, as long as you kind of know what's going to happen, with each one of these, like, I would not want this to match up perfectly. I'm going to want this to go underneath a little bit, right? And, that's when you go to, send to back, which I have to be in select. Okay, so, and here's my send to front, send to back. Okay, so, there's, I wouldn't want to cut a million pieces, but, it certainly is a little bit more fun when, you can control these, and make a small Celtic design or make a small weave design, right? Like maybe you just want to weave lines, so even straight lines, like this would not do it necessarily, right? That's a straight line. That's just going to be a line. I'm not going to have any options to make that wider, or, do anything with it. But with this tool, I can come down and, I can draw. And, I'm going to be tracing something, hopefully, or at least straightening it up. But if I wanted to weave, right, I've got to know that if I go like this, the minute I go over here, I've got some issues, right? Although this behaves, see, this behaved actually pretty well. This, so, but, something a little bit different. And I can control the width of these, so I can have some fun with this. But, just play with some of these tools, get comfortable with them. Especially get comfortable with this Bezier curve tool. I'm not sure why it's doing that now. Hold on, let me select everything. I'm just going to make a new block. So, just get comfortable. Like the Bezier curve tool is kind of fun. This is, if you can get comfortable with this tool, even if you don't get perfectly lined up on it, or you have to stop and draw multiple things to get what you want, then no biggie. As long as it closes, you get what you want, right? Technically you could go from like a Bezier curve tool. Make that wiggle a little bit. Bezier curve tool to the straight tool. I guess I'm still in Bezier curve. Hold on. And the only thing you need to do is hit that patch to close it. And if you miss, you just go in and edit the nodes to close it. So get comfortable with those tools, but don't rule out these tools either. Like this one's kind of interesting. Flip that around. And that's pretty much the beginning of a basket, right? And if, I want to control where these things go, or I want to line them up better, you do have these options to snap to grid, snap aligned segments, right? That's a new one, by the way. This one we're used to. auto join when drawing. Snap hole patch, come on, mouse over there. Snap hole patch to grid point on work table. Let's look at some of these. Like if I come in and I select this tool and I go to draw, it's going to try to snap to, right? See how it snapped to? Right, it snapped to that grid when I drew it. There's, the snap to options. Where are you? Okay. Here's, snap hole patch. We know that. Snap aligned segments. Okay, so, if these happen to be aligned and I want to draw something else, let me see what happens when I overlap that a little bit. See how it snapped it to? It wouldn't let me overlap that. It lets me at an angle, but, when I come in here and, I guess it let me do it on that one. It must have just snapped to. But, don't underestimate, like, this tool as well. These little shape tools. This is, when you really look at this, you could come up with some interesting little blocks with this, right? Even if you just use one of those little hexagons. Hold on. Even if you just make one of these, right? And you select it and come in and do the wreath. You can come up with some neat little things. You might have to play with the sizing or reposition a little bit to get what you want. But, you can come up with some neat little appliques with this. You also, even though we're doing the applique tool, if you line these up, I'm trying to line these up on the edges. Hold on. If you're lining something up, like you're going to snap it to, a certain point. Like you have control of where this goes. Like, so there's my straight section, right? Well, when I go to draw the next one, I have control over where it goes and what size it is just by where I drag the mouse, right? So I could line this up and make some neat little patches, right? And if it doesn't line up perfectly, I always have that option to drag it where I want it to go. Like something like this, you could easily come in here and say, really, whoops, this could be a bow tie, right?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So, you have all those options. You could even add a third section in there and, make the center tie, right? And, if you really want to get fancy, you have these little segments in here. Like between here and here, you could curve it. Between here and here, you could curve it. Which means you have some options here, right? And then you could come over here to your Bezier tool and you'd have to kind of draw along this line too, right? And then just, come in here and, you've got the option to plus some nodes in here. You have a great way of adding maybe some shading to it, right? And let's move this to the back. Might need to adjust that one a little bit, but, hey, I could come in here and say, this is going to be pink and this is the back side of it. See where I said, like I had that little gap there? So I might have to adjust a little bit. But, you have a lot of options playing with the built-in drawing tools. You don't have to do everything freehand. So just get comfortable with these tools, okay? And, play with the different shapes. I mean, the teardrop shape's kind of cool. You could make a flower so easy with that. You select everything. Like, for example, what goes on if I draw my teardrop like this, right? You move it down, so that you understand what's going to happen with the wreath, okay? We'll do 9 clusters. Okay, see how it flips that around? Okay, so So, okay, if you know it's going to flip it, try drawing it this way. See? How you draw that is going to determine how it flips. Does that make sense? For example, if I drew it like this and said, okay, let's cluster this thing around, see what happens? So, how I draw that is going to make a difference on, like if I put it at this angle, everything, the direction I put things is going to determine, how this behaves, see?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But, when I do something like, if I take this, right, and I, flip it, and I cluster this, I get the same results. Okay? So, depending on the shape or how it's placed or what it does is how it's going to behave. Okay? So, play with these tools and get comfortable with them because, we're going to do, I don't want to say in super hard drawings. That's not it. We're going to, progressively build to, like our drawing skills, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. So play with these tools, get comfortable. And let me go ahead and stop the recording now. And that in the back of your head that, we still have to deal with cloning or closing those pieces. Now, I'm going to cheat and use the Sloth tool. And, I'm going to just draw a swath. Whoops, maybe quite not like that. Let me undo that. And you can see, I don't have to be super neat about this. I could just draw it like this, right? And it's going to give a slight curve. If I want to be a little more neat about it, I would move a little slower. Like maybe you want to make your, swath like that, right? But, if I don't like it, I can always come in here and click on this. Nope, I guess it's not going to let me change the swath tool. Okay, so here's my swath. Hold on. Should let me select those. Okay. Okay, you can resize it. I just can't get it on my screen right just now because I made it too big. So let me undo my swath and we'll make it smaller. I guess we'll just make a new block. Okay. Nope, I don't want to save that. So if I go back into Applique and I make my swath, I'm just going to make a little swath, right? Nope, wrong tool, sorry. Okay, so there's my little swath. Okay, it's a little more controllable. I can resize it. Okay, and see what happens as I resize.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but I can't necessarily edit the shape. Well, I can. Okay, I can edit these curves here, right? Okay, here's my main point. See what happens when I drag it and I'm in the edit?
Right.
Okay, so I could take it to this corner, but remember, if I go all the way to this corner, I'm going to have, those edges hanging out. I can also curve it and alter the way it looks, by dragging on the nodes or by, flipping those. But you can see what's going to happen if I make it too severe. I'm going to have some issues. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just drag this out a little bit. Okay, so there's my swath. Let me move this in. Okay, now this, this I have some options. You can see, when I'm in this mode, see this edit object. Okay, here's, these little tools up here that show up that we've not seen before, right? Well, okay, it's showing me something. Okay, edit object, here's this. It's telling me that I can pull this, right? See these?
Yes.
Okay, so it's showing like I can actually grab segments between here too and drag them. So those are not like icons. They're more like instructions.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense? Because what it's showing me up here, like if you try to click on these, it's not letting you get them. It's saying that if I click, I can actually add a node. Okay, so here's edit node. So I can come in here and I can click on, like maybe this node here. I'm looking to see if it'll give me a place to do this. There's a right-click menu where I can edit the nodes, but I don't really have any nodes here to get to because we just kind of drew a quick line. Okay, so but tuck that in the back of your head. Here's the minus. Some of these will work with this and some of these won't. It depends on what's been done. Okay.
Okay, Bernie, I'm kind of blank here. What would a swath be? What would a swath look like on a block? Is it just like a piece of piping, or is it like those flying geese there? Or
it's going to be like the flying geese. So
okay.
If I go over into color, right?
Okay.
Each
All
one
right.
of these is going to be
okay.
A piece. You would not want to make this into, unless you were masochistic, you would not want to make this into a little tiny block.
Okay.
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 What you might look at doing is making it so that, these pieces, like right here.
Yes.
Came up and, hold on. Yeah, I'm in Applique. Okay. Okay, so here, I wonder why it won't let me get to my lines anymore. Hold on. Edit, select all. Okay, once I go in, I start adding color or move out of Applique. This has now changed this whole thing, right? So all of a sudden, I do have these nodes that I can move. See?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're drawing your swath, what you might want to look at doing is making this so that it kind of lines up and you can go into something different if you're going to do a block like this. Otherwise, we'd have a bunch of flying geese randomly flying all over, right?
Uh-huh.
And that would take a little bit of planning. I just wanted to show you kind of what
okay.
the
Okay.
did.
Well, I just wasn't, I thought that's what it was, but I just wasn't clear on it. So, okay. I got it in my mind now.
Now, see, now that we're into this mode, these icons work. Okay, so I can come in here and see once I'm selecting on these little segments. Remember how, like in our regular draw, when these segments touched, they broke into pieces, right?
Yes.
It's going to be the same thing here. So, what it's saying here is, what do you want to do? I can convert that to a curve just by, selecting the line in here and dragging it. It's not going to necessarily let me do that because it's small. Mm-hmm. But, just to give you an idea, like when we drew the swath, and it was still kind of in drawing mode, I guess, it didn't let me do anything. But once I'm in this mode and I select certain pieces, then certain icons I can use. It depends on what piece I pick. Okay, see these icons? I can, add a node. See where that node was added? Mm-hmm. And the same thing here. If I can get to this plus symbol, I can add a node. Now I can get rid of a node. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Convert the line to a curve. Okay, because that had a curve to it, I converted it and it went to a straight line. This lets me convert it to a curve, so I have these little Bezier handles. Okay, these do not become active. Okay, they're not active at this time, but it depends on what I select as to when they become active. Okay, so you're going to have to kind of watch these tools up here to edit. But, you know, this is what you can do with the swath. No, I'm not going to save this one. I'm just going to go with new block and patch draw, right?
Okay.
Okay, so if we go back to applique and we draw the swath, you know, just look at the difference about what happens here. Okay, there's my swath, right? Before I leave this page, I have different options. You know, here's my style. I can make this diamonds instead, or I can make it flying geese. Okay, minimum width. You know, let's make this really fat flying geese, right? Okay, boldness. Okay, and I still have the option to come in here and I can, you know, move these lines. I still have this option until I leave, right? But if you want to do something like this, that's maybe a little more matchable. Does that make sense? You would have to really think out how to match these up, but you could match up blocks if you know, align these so that you could attach other pieces to them. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, if I had like a block here, right, and, you know, I made sure that I had the same distance over here, in theory, I'll show you, because it would take some time to think about, right? You would have to kind of play with this a little bit. But, okay, here's my block. Let me get back in here, and I'm going to select this and see the contour options here. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second, but I'm going to go back to just straight, and we make this so that this goes flat at the top. See? Oops, let me go back one. Okay, so it's flat at the top, flat at the bottom, right? I have this little funny thing in here that I might want to get rid of, like that little funny kind of bend there. So I might want to edit that a little bit and adjust. Oops, not quite like that. Okay, so I've got that at the top still. And I just, you know, want to kind of straighten out a little bit what I'm trying to do without making it do something odd here. It just doesn't want to cooperate completely, so we'll have something odd there. Okay, so now let me change this a little bit more. Okay, so this is our, you know, I just want to straighten that a little bit and move it. So if we're pretty close to matching up down here. Okay, I'm almost done. I'm just trying to get this to where it kind of goes flat here so you can see what I'm talking about. Like, you know, it would take some work to really line this up, but it's doable if you want to put the time in. You move these around a little. Okay, let me undo. All right, so here's my block. I'm just going to kind of leave it as is and, you know, move this over. And I don't think it's going to let me adjust that, but okay, so pretend this is our block. Okay, we're going to save it to our block library. Okay, here's my block, right? And me go to quilts. Okay, so here's my block. I could now, line these up. If I wanted to take that time, I could line these up so that they kind of made like a neat little maybe roadmap kind of thing.
Oh, I see.
Okay, does that make more sense now? Like if I had lined that up better, you could be making swirlies all over, right?
Right.
Okay, so, you could do something like that, or, you can make it so that, you saw like the contour tool, right? Block library. Hold on, let me get into the sketchbook. I don't know if we can edit this now, but you saw. Yeah, I should be able to open that, right? There we go. Okay, but you saw, like when we were able to edit, that we had that contour option, right? Okay, here's a swath. Okay, I have this contour option, so I can make these contour and do some nifty things. See how they go wide and narrow, right?
Cool.
So, you don't have to always have it straight. You could, make this swath match up over here. Use your grid and make a couple of different blocks, or use your grid and make a block that kind of lines up here and lines up down there, or, so you have a lot of different options that you can use with this swath tool. And, it doesn't always have to be, it doesn't always have to be flying geese. You saw you can go in here, you can make it diamonds. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, that's what this swath tool does. It's kind of fun to play with. I think you could have a lot of fun with it. But, play with it and get kind of comfortable with the editing tools that go with it, because they're a little bit different, right? So, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm not going to worry about saving that. I'm just going to make a new block. And, okay, we're back in the patch draw. We're back in Applique. Now, the easiest way to probably start, unless you want to play, is to kind of start with some of the basic tools. And think of something that's symmetrical, right? Like, the easiest thing to do would be to come in here and say, okay, let's make a heart. There's our heart, right?
Right.
Okay, move the heart. So maybe it's dead center. We're on a 6-inch block. That 3 is pretty dead center, right? So there's my heart. And, use that wreath option. Number of clusters, 4. Maybe you want to do 8 or 10 and see what happens. Right? So there's all those little applique hearts.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. And you have, your polygon options here, right? You also have, more options here. You have these little teardrops, right? So you have some neat little options here. I'm going to kind of undo, and go back to just our first little hearts. Okay, you also have, the cloning option. And then, if you right-click, you can rotate it, or you can flip it. But, if you rotate it and then just move it, right, you can do that. Make a quick little flower. You can actually make a quick little flower here, a number of clusters, like maybe you only want like 4 of them, right? The spacing, just put the spacing tighter. See? If you want to make a clover, just get rid of one of these. If you want to make these bigger, you could just select all and, hold that shift key down. And it'll, size them like at least proportionately, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's rotate this a little. I don't want to go quite.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, you've got these other tools too, right? And we'll play with these in a little bit, but, let's look at what's in our polygon tools. And here's just a plain rectangle tool. And then, of course, here's our freehand. Here's the Bezier curve tool. So, if you want to make, like a stem to go with this, right? You've got this Bezier curve tool. You're going to hold, you're going to just hold your mouse in as you're using it. If you don't like it, just, undo. But, if I just pull it straight, that's what it's going to do. If I give a little move one way or another, I'm going to have different options, right? So, here's one part of the stem, and I can always come down here and draw from that piece and come up. And remember, if it does something like that and it's not quite what you want, there's no shame in stopping there and going up here and selecting this and pulling it where you want it, right? So now we've got like our little lucky clover, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be cute, you can kind of, draw smaller little hearts down here. And then from there, you're just going to go in here and you're just going to color it. So, that's easy.
You make it look so easy.
Well, the Bezier curve tool is kind of fun. It really is. Let me go ahead and throw this in the thing and start a new block, right? When you really look at some of, some of the designs, like if we start looking at some of these pre-built tools, right? This oval, when you really come down to it, it's like a feather, right? But, it's also kind of tulipy, right? You could easily make a tulip, even if you take this and maybe flip it and rotate it around, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the wrong way. I always go too far. Hold on. I'm terrible with angles. I should be great, but unless there's a formula, I could come back and I could draw this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fairly respectable tulip, right? And, you still have the option to. You can still come here and select it, and, you can adjust this to anything that you want. So you've got these tools to adjust and, get this to work how you want it to work. See?
Mm-hmm.
So you could do just about anything that you wanted in the scope of an applique. Just editing those little shapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now the fun starts when you start practicing using the drawing tools. Here's freehand, right? Here's going to be, my freehand. It doesn't join. If it doesn't join, it's the same rules. I can't color it, right? So, anything that you're going to draw freehand, you're really going to use that to trace more than anything, right?
Right.
Or, you're going to have to come in here and edit and make sure that those nodes are joining. And when they join, what happens is you get that, like a patch, like you made a patch. Okay, so you could, freehand, but it's a little bit easier when you have a something behind it. Okay, here's the brush stroke. The brush stroke is freehand, but, it's going to let me do like stems, Celtic kind of weaves maybe. And if you look, it's a certain width. Okay, here's my, I can contour this too, right? So you can come in here and you can use these tools to come up with some pretty nifty, little like stems or just designs. And here's the end. What kind of end do you want? Do you want it to be rounded? Do you want it to be pointed? Do you want it to be really pointed? Or you just want it to be flat? How wide do you want this? This is almost like the applique option or the steel tool option, right? Okay, so, and then you can still come in here and you can take this and, if you didn't quite get your lines smooth enough, not a big deal, but all of a sudden, you have these movable options that you can curve things with, right? You might not have put all those points in intentionally, but that's how it saw it when you drew it. Well, okay, if you select on this, you've got the edit option. It won't let you quite delete it from here, but, you can eventually delete it. If you go into color and do something, we come back, these tend to highlight, right? But if you look, there was an option. Hold on. If we go in here, I've got this option to convert it to a patch. When I convert it to a patch, I'm still in applique, and I come in here, and I go into the edit part, right? I have the plus option. I have this convert to a line. I can click on one of these little nodes, and I can get rid of them. I can drag the nodes around still. I can curve them if they're, if they're too straight, like maybe this one's, this one's a little straighter or needs a little more curve. I've got this, different things, okay? Like I've got make node a corner. We wouldn't necessarily want to do that. Make node a cusp. That's talking about where things kind of, meet maybe, right? So, I've got these different tools, and we'll play with those as we get a little more into this, but, I have a lot more options once I make it a patch. And I want to zoom in and show you that one node that we edited said, make it a cusp. See what it's doing?
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to kind of loop around. So if we say, what, make the node a corner, it kind of goes back, but it's kind of waiting for something to join it. Make node smooth, it smooths it. Make node symmetrical, like this one. Make node symmetrical. It's going to flatten that out and try to smooth things, right, and make both sides symmetrical. Like, for example, if I have this. Make node symmetrical. Let me go back here. Make node symmetrical is going to try to smooth, the edging on it. Make it a cusp. See how it makes it kind of join? It's trying to make a corner kind of thing. Okay, so you have all these neat tools that you can play with. And, of course, you can always, like break the curve. I can break this apart. Do you see what happened as soon as I broke the curve? This isn't a highlight because it's not really long. This is a curve. Break the curve. Maybe I need to add something else in here. Like, maybe I want to come in here and freehand in, my wonderful leaf, right? So, I know, anywhere on here. Like I said, it's always easier with an image, right? Or, I don't think I can join here with these pieces, but, there's my one piece, and then I could always zoom in, because, of course, we have these zoom tools, right? That point is touching there, so I could always come in here and, move this point maybe and close that back up, right? Okay, so, take control with the drawing tools and play with them. Don't worry about coming up with anything fantastic, but to me, this tool would be the hardest one unless you're very comfortable. But, the Bezier curve tool is kind of cool. Besides the fact that I can, make it just arc or I can make it wiggle, right? That's kind of neat. The line tool, of course, is just a line. But, you know, I always have the option to come in here, see where it says convert line to curve. Now it's a curve. See?
Mm-hmm.
You know, convert this line to a line. Now that's a line. And it's going to go between the two segments. What it's telling you is these dots are between the two segments.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, like if I were, you draw, you know, something, I'm dragging, there's my first line. I'm dragging, there's my second line. I'm dragging over, there's my third line, right? Once I close it, that makes a patch, right? If I want to edit, that's now considered one piece. But I've got these dots that are considered segments. Okay, so if I select this segment, see how these dots get bigger? And that one got smaller. If I select that segment, these dots are bigger.
Uh-huh.
And if I select that segment, then I know. So I always know which segment I've got selected, and I can, you know, adjust. I know which segment I'm adjusting. So, you know, even if, even if you can't get it perfect, don't worry. You can always come in and adjust this, right? See, the segments are still there, even though I've curved those other things. And I can add a node if I want to, so I can kind of fine-tune the segments in between. Okay? So, you know, even if you don't get these tools mastered, you know, you can always come in and edit them. Just select it. And, you know, you've got this plus. This plus thing is saying, I'm going to let you add a node. So you have a little more control. Okay, I'm working on this line segment because these two are larger. So if I do anything, if I say, okay, make it straight, it's that segment that's going to change. If I plus, it's this segment that's going to have a node put in the middle of it. If I click on here, these are bigger. And now anything I do is going to happen in this line segment. Does that make sense? And right now, because these two dots are bigger, anything I do is going to happen in that segment. So if you had to really fine-tune something, you could continue to add nodes to a certain extent, right? See that plus symbol come up? That means I can add a node. Plus symbol, I can add a node. Plus symbol, I can add a node. Way too many nodes, you know, select something and select a node and hit minus. You know, this is curvy. You know, I can straighten it. The segment in between here, you know, I can straighten it or I can curve it depending on, you know, what you're doing, right? And I can break the curve, you know, depending on how these nodes are fitting. It'll, you know, come up with that break the curve thing sometimes, right? But it depends on what I'm doing. It basically won't let me do something I can't do. These just won't highlight. But, you know, these are just lines right now. If I really wanted to create a shape, it's like when we were drawing in the freehand tool, you have to make sure things are closed. As soon as these, you know, highlight in that kind of vanilla color, then you've got an applique. Then you've got something that you can color in and get a template from. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Bernie, the tool you used. The tool you used to make that, I'm not sure what it is, with the leaf hanging off the edge of it. Could you make a figure 8 with that? Yeah.
You know, you probably could. Let me get rid of all of these, right? Okay. The tool I used was this brush stroke. So you could, you know, if you were neat enough. I'm just going to ask you guys to bear in mind that I'm left-handed and I'm using the mouse right-handed. So you could,
Okay.
you could write, you could really, if you wanted to, and you had really good hand control, you could make your own, kind of clover, right? You could make a Celtic design if you had something to trace. Okay. See where that says tracing image? That's where you would insert an image, and we'll work on that as we kind of go along. Oh, that's not good. Shouldn't stop working. All right, hold on. I'm going to